I am live on YouTube. I haven't gone live on YouTube in so long. Maybe I'm being recorded. I want to talk to you today about our growth, our spiritual growth and our psychological growth, and to let you know
I
that it
am
is not
live on
linear.
YouTube.
This is weird. Turn up volume. Oh my. Let me see. I have a image of me over here on the other screen. So bear with me. I haven't done this in a while. So I am sorting out the kinks, so to speak. Okay, I'm getting there, folks. Okay, so our growth is not linear. And I want to tell you about where this idea kind of originally came from, at least as far as I understand. I grew up as a Catholic in a Catholic family, and there was this idea, condition, introjected, implanted into me that there is a God above in heaven. And there, right there is this sense of separation of body to God the Father above. And this kind of encourages this linear path of development as if there is somewhere to go, in some hierarchy of development. And if you, at that time, and some people still believe this today, of a particular gender, then this path isn't even open to you. But it's a path of transcendence that doesn't include the body, doesn't include the feeling function, doesn't really allow us to be in relationship. It doesn't invite this kind of relationship that we need to have with all the different parts of who we are. And often in early relationships, there is an injury to our instinct or some kind of violation that happens. And often these violations or these abuses or some form of neglect by a trusted adult is so shocking that we're ill equipped to metabolize, to digest the experience. And what happens with that, it moves into our unconscious. And it doesn't mean that a part of us, our innocence, our aliveness, the feeling function, it doesn't mean that it disappears completely, but it fades into unconscious. And then sometimes we talk about that as being shadow or darkness. And then the work of our development, of our therapy, of our growth is to learn how to unpack and meet this unconscious material. So I'm passionate about this kind of work. And for a long time, I was schooled in the thought, in the way of moving linearly, and it never worked for me. And it doesn't work for most people because you can go from A to B and backslide and then think that you've done something wrong. And then add on top of that shame and wrongness, which isn't at all the case. And when we backstep into something, it means that we're moving to gather another part of who we are to meet something so that that can come along with us. The idea is not to leave anything behind, but to gather your wholeness so that the soul essence of who you are can be home within itself. So there are many programs and techniques that have been offered throughout time, and many are very useful. But I have found that the one that is most important is to be able to be witnessed, to have a mirror. And sometimes we learn to be a mirror to ourselves in meditation. It's kind of the idea behind meditation is to sit with yourself and to allow thoughts, sensations, feelings to be witnessed. But it's much more powerful if we can be in a circle with others and they can witness us in our narrative in whatever story it is that we might be telling ourselves or what experience we want to unpack so that it can not be contained so tightly and rigidly inside and it can start to air out. And when we are able to be in a circle that we trust and is held well, that witnessing, that mirroring is incredibly powerful. And so we then begin to see ourselves as we are, not how we have, not how in the ways that have been mirrored or reflected back to us in perhaps earlier times that were distorted, deformed, shaming, not accurate, but more of a projection of somebody else's unfinished business or stuff onto us. And then as young people, we don't really have the resource or the boundary to, say that doesn't belong to me. Let's put that back. You own it, not me. But over time in healing circles, we can dismiss, we can purge, so to speak, especially with the spirits of the plants. They help us to purge what doesn't belong to us. And then we're empowered to reclaim our innocence, our vital essence, our divinity, if you want to say that. So I work with plant spirits and I am passionate about it. I've been trained in 2 indigenous traditions and have great honor for working with plants as a healthcare system, along with being in a well-held circle and dream work. Because the dream is the language of the soul. Like we can have images presented to us, poetry presented to us, words in many different ways through art, through dreams, through, I said, poetry. And this is different. There's many different ways where our unconscious speaks to us. And in the dream, when we're paying attention and we're witnessing ourselves through our dream life, we're bridging the unconscious to the conscious so that we can embody, we can create a home for our soul to ensoul us in our bodies. And with that comes a empowerment to thrive beyond survival, which is what many people learn when there's been an injury, a fracture, a trauma. It feels very much like we're just getting by, and it isn't a true picture or true experience of what our potential is. And therapeutic process is spiritual development widens our lens, our view, our capacity to experience much more of who we are in a very true way. So healing is never linear. I have a quote here that I want to share with you. So often what is spoken about through medicine people is that when there is a trauma, it's as if the psychosomatic unity of the personality threatens to extinguish a vital spark of the person. Here, I'm not quite seeing all of it. So crucial for the experience of aliveness and feeling real, for feeling like a whole person. I remember this very well with an early injury, an early violation from a trusted adult who was part of actually the Catholic Church establishment. And it felt like a soul murder, and many call it a soul murder. A lost heart of the self disappears and moves into the unconscious. So it doesn't disappear fully. And then what I've been speaking to you about, these kinds of injuries, they're not isolated. It's not like we're injuring ourselves. We don't do that. That's something that gets learned perhaps later on, self-harming. And it is very common for some people, unfortunately. But the quote that I wanted to say is, what has broken relationally must be repaired relationally. So most injuries from early relational lives can be unpacked, can be metabolized, digested, and re-experienced toward a different outcome. And I talked a little bit about how dreams can help with this, art, reading metaphors, being in circles of friends who see you truly and hold a mirror up to you and see your wholeness. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than somebody sitting in front of you, and no matter what you might be telling about yourself, you know, the learned story that we can repeat over and over again, often it's just living in our minds. Our body speaks a different language and our soul speaks a different language. But to have somebody sitting in front of you and to say, I see your wholeness. I see your wholeness. Let that land. I mean, I don't see you. I see me on the screen. But that is what I endeavor to do all the time in my work, is to see past what has been muddied on the surface and to just clear that, polish the mirror and see you exactly as you are. I can hardly call it work. I call it witnessing. So my role is to foster safety and to earn trust. Call in the presence of the self with a capital S and the spirits of the plants, and to hold up a mirror to that injured self and to invite the soul back into the embodiment of home. I'm going to end here with a beautiful piece of poetry from the book called Wintering, which is written by Catherine May, Wintering, the Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. And this is what she says. Doing those deeply unfashionable things, slowing down, letting your spare time expand, getting enough sleep, resting, is a radical act now. But it is essential. This is a crossroads we all know, a moment when you need to shed a skin. If you do, you'll expose all those painful nerve endings and feel so raw that you'll need to take care of yourself for a while. If you don't, then that skin will harden around you. Beautifully said. So now here we are in springtime after a long winter where things can feel cold and hard, and it is more of a time for being inside and for resting. But as we bloom into summer, and here we are at the full flower moon, which began yesterday, we're in a full moon, which is always an opportunity to reflect on how far you have come. And to reflect, we have to rest. It's a time of introspection. So even though we are blooming, you know, beautifully now, and you can see the blooming all around you, you know, with the grass, especially where I live right now, because we've had such amazing rain and the sun is shining and the days are longer. But we can learn the art of reposing, resting, and blooming simultaneously. And what that means is that we don't have to push to make something happen. Like, watch nature. Nature is this amazing teacher. Like, so much is happening all of the time. And it's almost like we can receive this transmission from nature just by spending more time with her, listening and feeling and letting her teach us how to walk a little more slowly, how to really feel our feet on the earth, how to be tender with ourselves. And this is the art of integration. So if you've had a powerful healing experience where something has shed and fallen off, you've seen yourself in a new light. You know, we want to have time for that to integrate, for it to stabilize. And it will. And it does. And you will feel more and more at home with yourself, more alive. So thank you for tuning in. I'm Prajna O'Hara, and this is my channel. If you like it, please subscribe. And I'm coming on more lately. I'm trying to figure out this whole